What is going on, everyone? This is Miles with Windows Central Gaming, and welcome to the 53rd episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today, I was originally supposed to be joined by Snowbike Mike of the Kinda Funny Xcast, but in the immortal words of Disturbed, he has come down with the sickness. So, huge shout out to my good friend and my partner over at Windows Central, Samuel Tolbert, for stepping up to the plate and joining me for this humongous episode. Sam, I know you got this invite about 10-15 minutes ago, so I appreciate you jumping on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and for anyone who's disappointed not to see Mike, I'm sorry. I'm just as disappointed as you are. I was looking forward to jumping into the chat and listening to the show soon, and a few minutes ago, Miles was like, "Hey, buddy,
Hey!
how's it hanging, friendo?" But real talk, it's good to be here. Glad to be talking with Miles about this of all weeks. This I dare say more than any other week this year. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild stuff.
You and I have a great deal to talk about. And again, a lot of people know Samuel Tolbert as an Xbox Chaturdays regular. So again, stoked to have you on. Stoked to be able to dive into some of these conversations. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox spending an astronomical amount of money to acquire them. We're going to be talking about Call of Duty exclusivity, the future of Xbox Game Pass, and then we'll also, towards the end of the show, be talking about some rad games we've been playing as well. But first, Sam, for the people who maybe don't know, who are tuning in for Mike, let the amazing people in the audience know who you are and where they can find you.
Yeah, so if you haven't caught me before somehow at this point, my name's Samuel Tolbert. I work with Miles over at Windows Central and its sister sites. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. If I'm not talking about games, I'm usually writing about games or playing games. It's usually one of those three. Miles and I have a lot of common interest, including groaning at hot takes and horror films. We both enjoy both of those.
So again, love you, Sam. Appreciate you for stepping up and joining me today. Some quick housekeeping before we start diving into the meat of the show. For those of you who are unaware, Xbox Chaturdays is now on all of your favorite audio services. Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts. Search it on there if you want to listen to it on demand. Be sure to rate the show. Be sure to follow the show. All of that great stuff. For the people tuning in live, thanks so much for joining us every week. I genuinely appreciate it, and it's really cool seeing familiar faces. We got Harjeet Chani. We got Silent Cypher. We got Yodani. We got... Mr. Joanna Dark dropping a couple super chats before dipping out of here. But again, really genuinely appreciate all of you guys who tune in week after week. The show is a blast, and I look forward to it every week. So Sam, let's get straight into the topic this week.
No dancing around it. No dancing around.
No, we got to jump straight into this because it was massive news. So obviously in the US, Monday was a holiday. Tuesday morning, I woke up to 20 DMs. I was scared, Sam. I thought my gut instinct was like, oh no, what have I done? What did I say? What did I do? Why are so many people DMing me? I was literally afraid to open my DMs on Tuesday morning because I thought I did something bad. And I was like, oh.
Pictures have leaked. This isn't good.
And then it's just people like one word like, dude, wow. And I'm like, oh no, what did I do? And then I go on Twitter and then I see the bombshell announcement that Xbox comes out super early Tuesday morning and announces their intent to acquire Activision, Blizzard, King for $69 billion, Sam. $69 billion. That's more than the value of most countries, if you think about it.
Yeah, for sure. That's a small third world country right there. That's God, I don't even know where to begin in terms of trying to process it or break it down. You know, it's one of those things where Bethesda was huge, right? We all remember where we were when Microsoft announced that they were acquiring ZeniMax Media, parent company of Bethesda Softworks. It was a bombshell moment, but it was understandable. You know, you could wrap your head around that kind of money. You could wrap your head around what that means. I don't think anyone can honestly quite yet wrap their heads around what this means and what is being exchanged here. This, like, I mean, I was up when it happened. I was enjoying my coffee and my cranberry muffin. I was looking over my work I needed to do for the day, and I refresh my Twitter feed, Miles, and I see the image. I don't even see the headline. I just see the image, Xbox plus Activision Blizzard King, and I'm like, these fan mock-ups, why is this one going around? Why does this fan mock-up have 20,000 retweets? And then I look again, and man, that's a good fan mock-up. It's really well done. And then I see the URL that's being shared on Twitter. It's like, huh? What? So
this is not a fan mock-up. This is
what's
reality.
going on? What's going on? It's huge. It's huge. This is easily going to be the biggest news of the year. Like, it's already decided. It's already locked in. It's not possible to get bigger than this. It's just not. It doesn't matter what anyone says. You can't get bigger than this. This is Microsoft's biggest acquisition ever, right?
Oh,
by a wide margin, because it's bigger than LinkedIn. It's way bigger than LinkedIn. This is the biggest gaming acquisition ever, dethroning Take-Two acquiring Zynga, which was the biggest just a couple of short weeks ago. That it held the record for just a few minutes there, just a tiny bit at the top.
It's wild, man. You're absolutely right, because when they announced their intent to buy Bethesda, that was the biggest news of the year, and that dominated conversations for months and months and months and months. And that was 7.5 billion. And I remember all of us talking about how much money that was, and how wild it was to see Microsoft invest 7.5 billion into their gaming division after, the saga of the Xbox One that's kind of been talked about to death. But it's wild to see that. And then now we have an acquisition a year later, essentially, that is almost tenfold, almost 10 times that amount. And it's really hard to wrap your mind around that figure. And before we go into some of the bigger picture stuff, and we talked about this a little bit, but when you first saw this news going around, outside of the complete disbelief and the fact that you thought that maybe this wasn't even real, what was your initial instinct and your gut response to Xbox spending that much money to buy Activision?
Okay, so I had two thoughts, Miles. Two thoughts immediately back to back. And so I can't really discern which one was first, but I know these were my two first thoughts. One of them was, this changes the game. Like, Bethesda changed the game.
Yes.
But it was still comprehensible. You can still wrap your head around it. It still fits in there quite nicely. It's like, all right, in hindsight, made a lot of sense. This changes the game in a way that I don't think anyone understands yet. Anyone who says, "Oh, I get completely what's going on here," it's a falsehood. They're lying. I don't quite understand what's going on here entirely. We can try and take a stab at it, but it's wild. My second thought was, how the hell did Phil get Satya to sign off on this? How? How do you walk into someone's office and say, "Yeah, bro, I need a cool 69 billion. Just, hey,
yeah, that's
bring it to me, man."
Yeah, that is a wild conversation to think about. Is, we in our job we have expenses that we can, occasionally we can write off equipment that we use for our job, and that's like, we gotta justify $150 or whatever it is. And that is like justifying, $150? Do you need this? Do you really need this?
Do you need that charger? Do you need this new laptop? No, you don't.
You don't. So imagine that times $69 billion, and just walking into that office and saying, Satya, hey, I know this is going to sound wild. We recently came out publicly and said we're investing heavily in Xbox. We're investing in our teams. We're investing in our first party output. And I'm going to need 69 billion to buy Activision and Blizzard. I hope we can make that work. And then to have them be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think we can swing that. And then just to dump that money. That's the wild thing about Microsoft when we look at the landscape of gaming, and we look at people saying like, well, Nintendo needs to do this to counter. PlayStation needs to do this to counter. They, like, the scary part for them, and the scary part for a lot of people, I think, when they talk about their concerns, is that almost nobody can do that. Almost nobody else in the space can drop $70 billion. That is more than Nintendo's entire worth right now. to put things in perspective here, the acquisition Blizzard value is more than Nintendo is worth. So for Xbox to be able to just buy that outright it's staggering. It is absolutely staggering.
How do we so how do you want to do this? How do you want to break down Activision Blizzard joining Xbox? Because there's so many different components to that
Yes,
whole
I got this nicely segmented, so we'll be able to kind of dive into it, because there is a lot to unpack with all of this. Obviously, it's exciting. It is huge news. It is going to dominate it's going to dominate discourse until the deal closes in maybe a year. It sounds like it's a little ways off. There's speculation as to when this deal will close, but it could take up to June of 2023. So we're going to be talking about this for a while. So
discourse.
Every single game that gets announced. Is this an Xbox exclusive now? Will this come to PlayStation? So get ready for those conversations.
Y'all thought the Starfield conversations were exhausting? You've seen nothing yet.
You've seen we haven't just even begun. So before we dive into the bigger picture conversations, because we're going to be talking about the monopoly concerns, we're going to be talking about the state of Activision Blizzard, we're going to be talking about Call of Duty exclusivity, all those things. But what I want to talk to you about before we dive into that, the more critical aspects of this, is what does this acquisition look like for you in a dream scenario? So let's say this plays out exactly as Samuel Tolbert wants it. What does the future of Activision Blizzard King look like within Microsoft?
Okay, so the future of Activision Blizzard King, for me, breaks down into 3 basic steps. Three bullet points, nice and easy, in terms of importance for what needs to happen for this company to thrive. Because, and we can talk about more about this later, but Activision Blizzard's had an interesting last year.
Yes.
They've had a rough few months. They've had a rough few years, if we're being honest, but they've had a rough few months. It's not been great. So, number 1, Bobby Kotick out the door. Out. Just you're done. Clock is ticking. Get the boot. Float off on your golden parachute, whatever. Say you win. It doesn't matter. You don't get to determine what happens to these people anymore. You don't get to create your, quote, culture of fear anymore, unquote.
This might be a little extreme, but I'm really hoping at the end of this, there's a big ceremony where everyone just loads Bobby Kotick into a cannon and just fires him out to space. That's my dream finale.
Allow it.
Okay.
I'm gonna allow it. Have people cosplaying as Spartans and cog soldiers come in and just wreck the board of directors' office. Just tables flying everywhere, papers shredded. No, Kotick, you're out. You're done. Number 2, and almost as important, COD stops being annual. Call of Duty being annual. I wrote about this very extensively for Windows Central self-promo, but great breakdown on what has happened to this company. Activision has propped up the Call of Duty war machine at the expense of its company. Every single developer under the Activision umbrella works on Call of Duty now. That's not healthy, and that's not okay. Call of Duty is big. Call of Duty is important. Microsoft wants Call of Duty to continue making a ton of cash for them. I'm not going to disagree with any of that. Call of Duty cannot be annual. It cannot. I think every other year, a year with Call of Duty, a year without. A year with Call of Duty, a year without. You keep Warzone ongoing. That's a good cadence where you're still selling a ton of Call of Duty games, but these teams get to breathe. Miles, I've got this crazy idea. What if Toys for Bob got to make Crash Bandicoot and Spyro games again? I don't know. I think that's neat. And Activision thinks that's controversial. I think that would be neat. I think it would be neat if Beanox got to make Crash Team Racing again. Just a crazy thought, just putting it out there. Raven Software, poor Raven, has been begging since the Destiny days to make a new IP. That's out there. That's public information. They have wanted to make a new IP. Let them. Just let them. Let them do it. That's step number 2. Step number 3, at risk of this whole phrase, make Blizzard great again. Blizzard Entertainment was a legendary developer. A legendary name. It is not an overstatement to say Blizzard defined PC gaming in the late 90s and the early 2000s. Just StarCraft, Diablo,
Mm-hmm.
Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, good
Ooh.
God, what that game did. Um, Let them do that again. I'm not saying they need to be crunching stuff out or anything like that, but reorganize, get support, lean on other Xbox teams, have Xbox come in and talk, share your IP. Miles, just crazy thought here. What if the Coalition got to make a StarCraft third person shooter? How insane would that be, and how awesome? Or, what if Blizzard actually made RTS games again? Just, there's a lot of possibilities there, so that third point, I'm gonna leave it open, but I want to see Blizzard brought back to that legendary status. Microsoft has a ton of incredible RPG developers now. In fact, they have most of the incredible RPG developers now, which is another topic altogether. Bethesda, Obsidian, I want Blizzard as that shining North Star up there with all the rest, but it's going to take work, and it's not going to be easy. So
I
yeah, that's Sam's
That's
thoughts.
Sam's dream, and again, that is, I think, what a lot of people want, and a lot of people are hopeful for. Before I dive into my thoughts, going to give a quick shout out to everyone who's tuning in live. If you are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out, feed that monstrous, insatiable YouTube algorithm. If you're listening on podcast services, again, like the show, rate the show. Let me know what you think about this format. I'm with you, Sam, on a lot of those points. I think a lot of this for me comes, a lot of where my excitement lies is with the possibilities of what this could mean for these teams. It bums me out. It breaks my heart that Vicarious Visions, who was just crushing remasters, delivering some of the best like remakes, remasters of beloved games. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, one of the rare times I've ever given a game like a perfect 5 out of 5 score. Like
Right.
that
Yeah.
team delivers. And then for them just to be dissolved and turn into like a support team for Diablo 2. That to me was a huge blow, and that showed that like no matter how great you were and no matter what you delivered in this Activision web, it didn't matter. They were going to do what they needed you to do, and they were going to throw you on the projects that they felt were going to be the most financially viable. And obviously, they thought Diablo 2 was going to make a ton of money, and so that team just got merged into that. So I want these teams, like you said, to have the freedom to not all be Call of Duty studios. Most of Activision's business revolves around this machine, this cog that just cranks out Call of Duties every single year, no matter what it takes, no matter how many teams need to be on it, no matter what they need to do, no matter what the state that it releases in, they're going to put out a Call of Duty every single year because it makes money. We look at Call of Duty Vanguard, despite all of our criticisms, despite all of our concerns, despite the fact that it launched in a pretty mediocre state, it was the best-selling game of last year. So Call of Duty is one of those brands that no matter what, to some degree that they put out, people are going to buy it, and they know that, and they're just kind of seeing what they can get away with before that trust completely erodes. And again, this is me drinking the Xbox Kool-Aid, and you can say what you will here, but Phil Spencer is somebody that I can look to and trust the vision. He is somebody that I can look to and say that he has good intentions when he's making these acquisitions, and when he tells you that it's going to allow for more flexibility and more freedom. I want to believe that, because for me that has been the most exciting thing about Xbox's strategy, is that they are trying to set up a viable, sustainable business that allows teams to experiment. Game Pass is the perfect vessel for titles that were being completely eviscerated with the AAA gaming space because they weren't normally under $60 single purchase scenarios viable. And you look at the list of Activision IP that are included there, and there's huge possibility for those teams to experiment and come back. And so, yeah, obviously people can have their concerns, but I want to believe that, or for me, the perfect scenario for all of this is that the people of Activision Blizzard King have a better work environment. They have more freedom and flexibility, and they are no longer part of the industry machine where they get into development. They are stoked. They are thrilled that they're working on Call of Duty. Imagine being an up and coming developer and saying like, I'm working on Call of Duty. Like, imagine getting that phone call, landing that gig, and then getting into that space and having it be this horrible experience, an experience that ruins your entire outlook on the video game industry. That, hearing stories like that is really crushing for me, and I don't want anyone to be in that situation. So I am going to hold Microsoft accountable, and I'm going to make sure that
Yes.
after this deal closes, that I want to see meaningful change. I want to see notable change, and I don't want this to be status quo. Like Bethesda, we didn't really have a problem with them working autonomously. That
Mhm.
was kind of like what Microsoft implied. It's like, obviously we'll be involved, but we're not going to necessarily change how they create. We're just going to give them more resources.
Right.
Blizzard, on the opposite side of that coin, I hope Microsoft gets heavily involved and says, things have got to change. And we've gotten statements from Mike Ybarra, but unfortunately, statements from Blizzard right now don't mean anything to me.
Unfortunately, they ring a little hollow, and that's no disrespect to Mike Ybarra himself. That's just where Blizzard is at, and respect is earned; it's not freely given,
Yes,
and it hasn't been given to the workers over at Activision Blizzard, especially on the Blizzard side, with what we've heard. I can't believe this is evidently a controversial statement, but you should be allowed to work without being sexually harassed repeatedly in awful ways. You should be able to work without crunching and just having horrible abuse thrown your way.
yeah,
No,
that's
it's Microsoft can't do anything right now. I understand. I saw a lot of hot takes when the news first broke, and like, okay, Bobby was always going to get a paycheck leaving this, so that's one thing I'm just going to put out to people. That was, I don't like it either. It was always going to happen. Number two, Microsoft can't do anything legally right now.
they don't own the company right now.
Yeah, when they do, all right, what's it going to be?
What's it going to be?
The world is watching Xbox and Microsoft. You have an incredible opportunity, or this could be a disastrous failure. I'm optimistic, but you got to do it right.
Exactly, because again, the current state of Xbox is really exciting. I talk to people from Xbox regularly, and a lot of people have been legacy employees, been with the company for a long time, and they're fostering this culture that seems like Microsoft is a great place to work. Their history hasn't been perfect though. You can go back even to 2018, you can see examples of you know not ideal workplace situations for some employees. So it is complicated. There's a lot of stuff involved there, but I do believe that Microsoft has good intention. And I do believe that they are trying to set a positive example in the industry. We've heard Phil Spencer come out and talk about how they are, there's companies that they trust within the space to do the right thing and treat the industry with respect. And then there are companies that they don't. So that's comforting because again, with as gaming gets bigger and bigger and bigger, as with any industry, the opportunity for money gets bigger and bigger. And so there's going to be a lot of people entering the space for nefarious reasons or entering the space just to get a piece of that money impacts the employees, how that impacts the industry as a whole. So again, it is great to have figures in the industry who genuinely care about game development, genuinely care about their employees. And I again, I want to believe that that's reality, but again, I've been very vocal in the fact that I'm expecting a lot from Microsoft. I'm expecting a lot from this team, and I will be very vocal if I feel that they are not delivering on what they should. If you're going to spend $70 billion, Sam, you have an obligation more than anyone else to improve the lives of your employees. For me, it's that simple.
100%. 100%.
So I'm gonna get to some super chats here because we got some people dropping them. We got an amazing crew here. Shout out to 160 people joining us. Mr. Joanna Dark dropped 2 super chats. Retracted the messages though. So Mr. Joanna Dark, legend, keeper of the Chaturdays lore. Appreciate you stopping in. Harjeet Chani says no Snowbike Mike. Hashtag make COD exclusive. But seriously, should Xbox get something in return for putting COD on PlayStation? Don't you worry. We're gonna have an entire segment, a long conversation about Call of Duty exclusivity because there's been some spicy developments in that regards. Silent Cipher here says, what pipe dream remakes or remasters would you like to see from the ActiBliz catalog? Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work. Yeah, that is something that I wanted to talk about. So let's transition straight into that. Sam, Activision, Blizzard, King. In the not so distant future, they are part of Xbox.
Right.
What are your dream either new IPs, remakes, remasters, or reboots that you want to see from this catalog?
Okay. All right. You know what? I'll give you one of each.
Let's
That's a
go.
wide spread there,
Yeah.
but Activision Blizzard is stupid. Shout out to Clobro on Twitter, who is doing. The poor man is trying to break down exactly how this works with like the crazy infographics and the stats. Like, good work, man. You're making my job easier. I'm dead serious. It's a lot to keep up with. So three things. I already mentioned this, but seriously, let Raven make a new IP. They can keep on updating Call of Duty Warzone. That's fine. I imagine they'll have an easier time updating it when QA isn't being laid off and crunched to the bone. Crazy concept. But let Raven make a new IP. They want to. Why would you not? Raven, and this is actually a funny thing about how this acquisition works, Miles. Raven has a history with IdTech and id Software, with Wolfenstein 2009, sharing technology and ideas back then. Like, now I'm not saying they're going to go jump on Wolfenstein now, but, hey, maybe let Raven slide on over to id Software and take a look at id Tech 7. Maybe make a new IP with that. That'd be pretty cool. Number two, in terms of remakes or remasters, you've got one out there that isn't great right now. Go back and fix Warcraft 3 Reforged. Deliver the new cinematics that you were supposed to. Let people actually access the old game. Go back and do that game justice. You have the resource. You will have the resources now. We're talking as if they've been acquired, so
yes.
all that. When you have the resources, go back, do it justice, do it right. Third game. I want StarCraft 3. Give me StarCraft 3. Like, I want a new RTS. StarCraft is one of those RTS games that it's up there with Age of Empires in terms of how influential it was. And another thing, Miles, is Microsoft has been doing really well on console games for Game Pass. They've been really killing it there. Third-party deals coming in, Rainbow Six Extraction, Outriders, Day One deals, their own first party. PC hasn't been quite as good. It's not bad. I don't think it's awful, but it hasn't been as good. With Blizzard, you can really ramp that up. StarCraft 3 on PC Game Pass Day One, we're cooking. We are cooking there.
Now. Oh.
But I want to hear what games you want to see out of this.
So yeah, I was really racking my brain, and obviously as a young skater lad, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater for me. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 in particular. Huge transformative games that back when they released, everyone, it didn't matter if you skateboarded or not, everyone was playing those games and loved those games. And for me, they still hold up. Like I said, going back and playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, that remake, absolutely phenomenal. So I got to thinking about, how do they take that, make it less, I guess, niche, if you will, kind of reintroduce that to a broader audience. So here's my pitch. Here's my pitch here, Sam. I want Crash Bandicoot's Pro Skater. And what I want Crash Bandicoot's Pro Skater to be is a casual party skateboarding game that combines all the mascots like Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, skaters from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Hell, let's throw some Xbox mascots in the mix now because we can. And I want it to combine elements of SSX, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and Mario Party. And I want it to be this super easy to play, super easy to access, kick-ass skateboarding game. And for me, that would be the dream. Like, if they could deliver that to me, don't tell me that wouldn't hit.
You're giving me flashbacks to my days as a 14, 15-year-old trying to skateboard.
Yeah.
You're giving me those good early high school nostalgia vibes. Yeah, I'm with you. That'd be good.
So yeah, and then obviously, at this point, I just want Diablo 4 to be good, because if I'm being honest here, in the past year or two, with everything going on in Activision Blizzard, like, I was really losing confidence in Overwatch 2. I was really losing confidence in Diablo 4. I was unsure that these games would come out and be what everyone wanted them to be. You talk about Warcraft 3. That was not very long ago that they put out Warcraft 3, and that was in such a miserable, just embarrassing state. And for them, like, a company that was so beloved and just had hit after hit and kind of, like you said, redefined PC gaming at one point, for them to put that out and have it be such a disappointing flop, to me, it showed that they don't even care about their own legacy anymore. And that hurt. That hurt. So outside of Crash Bandicoot's Pro Skater, let Diablo 4 be good, and I'll be happy.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I will say, to be fair, not to push back, because I totally understand what you mean, Miles, they have been giving very regular quarterly updates, like
That's true.
clockwork, talking
Yes.
about what they're doing. At risk of sidebarring here, I have more faith in Diablo 4 than I do in Overwatch 2 at
I
this
think
moment.
that's fair. I think no one right now has any faith in Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
I've never seen so many leads leave a project in my entire life.
I mean, even now you have leads, like not even just Blizzard staff, but lead developers on Overwatch 2 saying, it's going to be nice when you're gone, Bobby K, because we're not going to be scrapping work because you change your ideas on a whim. So that'll probably speed up development a little bit.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Super chat here from Harjeet Chani, who says, was this really not something you should have seen coming? I did. I was looking at it from ABK's perspective. Not many paths to fix their issues, and not many companies that could buy them. Still big. Yeah, so that's an interesting point. There was a lot of kind of hot and heavy speculation and accusations being thrown around. But the reality of the situation is that Activision was looking for someone to buy them. I think they were realizing that their current model wasn't that sustainable, and that long term, if it got to a point where Call of Duty wasn't delivering, if Call of Duty wasn't consistently that huge mega seller every single year, they were going to be in serious trouble. And I think that was part of the reason they were looking to, sell, is to get themselves out of that situation. And they were looking at other buyers outside of Microsoft as well. So I guess I'll pose the question to you. Like, was this something you saw coming in terms of Xbox specifically buying Activision? Was there writing on the walls?
Here's what I will say. It's always easy to say the writing is on the wall in hindsight. Hindsight is 2020. You can always see the pieces coming together when the puzzle has actually been put together. Now, to be fair, I will say I did have the thought that maybe Activision and Blizzard get split up. That Activision just goes all in on Call of Duty to the point that they're like, you know what? Good riddance, Blizzard, and your problems. We're going to sell you off. And in that scenario, I did see Microsoft coming in as one of the bidders on Blizzard. So I saw that. The entire company, all 10,000 employees, no. I did not. And hey, you know what? If you legitimately saw this coming, kudos to you and bravo. I definitely didn't. I didn't think that Microsoft was going to be willing to spend this kind of money on a publisher. It's
a pay.
Right opportunity, right time, right price, I guess. If Phil is playing, if the price is right.
And yeah, what's funny about all of this is there's been so much speculation basically since Bethesda. The Bethesda announcement has opened the floodgates and told the world that, to some degree, nothing is impossible. And I think that's amplified tenfold when they spend $70 billion on Activision Blizzard King. And a lot of us were speculating, Warner Brothers, Square Enix. There's a lot of, compared to Activision, a lot smaller publishers that some people thought maybe Xbox could buy. But I certainly was not expecting to wake up Tuesday morning and see that Xbox spent $70 billion on Activision. Especially with that, the main thing for me that left me skeptical about Activision was the lawsuit. What was all the allegation? Was their troubled culture? And I guess kudos to Microsoft for stepping in and at least feeling that they can come in and correct that to some degree. So I guess there's that. But yeah, like if I'm an executive looking at Activision Blizzard King the last year as a valuable entity, there's a lot of red flags and a lot of question marks before I'm dropping $70 billion on that. Harjeet Chani with another super chat here says, Kotick is still a large, if not the largest shareholder of ABK. He is going to get a very large check for his.
Yeah, he will. Yeah. It sucks. I don't like it either. But you know what I like? If the options are Bobby stays as CEO and gets big paychecks, or Bobby goes and gets a big paycheck, lesser of two evils and all that. Lesser of two
Yeah, I
evils.
know. I know it's not a satisfying conclusion for the people who've been frustrated and upset with the way he's basically skirted all responsibility for everything going on there. When you hear that he's going to be getting millions and millions and millions of dollars after this, just to leave, just to be gone, like even if he's just gone, he still gets a huge, humongous pay, more than everyone watching this show combined will make in their entire lives. He's going to get that for doing a bad job. And I get that that's upsetting. I really do. But again, I agree that hopefully after this closes, he's gone and we don't have to worry about him as a figure in the video game industry any longer. Hopefully he just takes that money, realizes what he's done, and just leaves. Just fade off, use that money to travel the world or whatever the hell you do. Just please
Buy a
don't.
crypto island somewhere
Yeah,
and don't
please.
bother us.
Yeah, just Eternal Umber with a super chat here says, "Morning, Miles, and my my brother and Snowbike Sam. Gonna need you two to give us a fantasy list of IP and dev teams you'd like to see make new games."
Ooh,
Okay.
fantasy list.
Well,
Why don't we alternate? Like you go, I go for a
yeah.
couple at
Yeah,
least.
so I did this on Twitter yesterday. Again, this isn't going to be strictly Activision, but I was thinking about kind of developers and IP or ideas that I would love to see Xbox or Xbox Game Studios publishing really go after. And my first one is going to be, I want to see Cold Iron Studios take that Phantom Dust reboot. Yeah, baby, let's go.
There it is. There
Let's
it is.
go.
We almost made it a show without it, but there
no,
it is.
no. If
There it is.
if I have any opportunity, even if you give me an inch, I'm going all the way. So that's number one for me. What do you got?
Oh man. Okay, so Activision's on the brain here. I mentioned before the Coalition on a third-person StarCraft shooter. Come on, that's just it's right. It's
Yeah.
right there. That works well. But I'll put another one. Even if Blizzard doesn't want to make it themselves, let Obsidian maybe or Playground, one of the two, make a proper Warcraft RPG. And, World of Warcraft is a whole thing, and there's discussions about that. I'm sure. Does that come to Xbox? How, do you tie the sub into Game Pass? I'm sure those discussions will be had. But why can't we have other adventures in that world? It's a big world, full of lore, full of stories, full of characters, full of ideas. Like, even if Blizzard proper isn't going to do it, let another team at Xbox or Bethesda explore around and make a game there.
Yeah, I again would love to see that. I love the Coalition. The Coalition has proven to be ridiculously talented and one of the kind of premier developers with Unreal. The stuff that they can work with Unreal is, wait for it, Unreal. I'm on fire. I see some people in the chat asking what happened to Snowbike Mike. So if you're just tuning in, I will reiterate the terrible joke I made at the start of the show. In the immortal words of Disturbed, Mike has come down with the sickness. So Sam here, the legend, is stepping in. Next up for me in terms of dream ones, I want to see Gunn. I want to see Gunn get a big sack of Microsoft money to make a legitimately huge, large scale horror multiplayer title. They've done some cool stuff with, Friday the 13th. They're working on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. They're getting more talented. They're getting more bold with their ideas. But I want to see them get that big sack of Microsoft money to make this huge horror multiplayer game. I want someone to go back to the Resident Evil Outbreak formula. Really look at what that did for its time and say, we need to bring this back. I want these massive environments. Give me a city to run around in and let me play as an average person and make it like one of the things I love most about Resident Evil Outbreak is that you played as like a janitor, you played as a police officer, you played as a firefighter, and that dictated like what equipment you had, what skills you had. And I thought that was just such a fascinating idea for a multiplayer game. And we haven't seen anyone go back to it since. And we're seeing all these cool asymmetrical multiplayer horror titles, and it's still baffling to me that Capcom obviously hasn't gone back, and I don't know if they will, but I want someone to really take a look at what that formula was for its time and bring it into the future.
Sounds good. You know what? We are in a world of opportunity now.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
is so much that can happen.
What's next, Sam? What else you got on that fantasy list?
Oh god. Oh god. Okay. So I've not been a big fan of the whole X developer must remake this old game, but I'm gonna break my rule.
Oh, don't do it. If you throw
Toys for
Tim,
Bob.
okay,
Toys for Bob. No, no. Poor Tim. I would never hurt poor Tim.
he's been
made it
very
very clear.
vocal.
Double Fine is doing their own thing, y'all. If they make a sequel, it's going to be a sequel to their own games. Leave them alone. And I think they really just want to make new IP for the most part. Leave them alone. Toys for Bob. And they have Crash Bandicoot and Spyro. That's fine. But you know what else they have, Miles? You know what other mascot Microsoft picked up a while ago that's been neglected for a while? Banjo-Kazooie.
Blinks? Oh.
No, I said mascot. Banjo-Kazooie, Miles. You have Banjo-Kazooie and you have Toys for Bob. It's right there. It's right there in front of you. Like, how do you not at least talk about it? How do you not think about doing something with that? Come on. Like, it's obvious. It's painfully obvious.
It's wild to me that, obviously Rare doesn't want to do it. Rare right now is focused on new ideas, new projects, so that's fine. A lot of people have suggested that Double Fine do it as well. Tim Schafer doesn't want to do it. Has been very vocal that he does not want to touch anyone else's IP. That's not why he's making games. But it's wild to me that no bigger studio has stepped up and said, "Yeah, hell yeah, we'll do a Banjo." Like, does no one want to make a Banjo game? Everyone wants it. There's so much outcry from fans who've been just desperately pleading for a new Banjo, but I have to feel like at some point there hasn't been a team that even wants to do it. Like, is that where we're at? What's the deal?
I guess so. But again, like I said before, Toys for Bob, who very clearly do not want to be making Call of Duty support. That's clearly not what they want to be spending their time doing. Come on, y'all.
I'm on the same page. That was, again, one of my first thoughts was either Toys for Bob does a Crash Bandicoot X Banjo-Kazooie crossover game.
X Spyro, throw him in there as well.
Let's do it.
Why not?
Let's get the gang's all here. Let's make it a character swapping platformer with Banjo, Crash Bandicoot, and Spyro. Boom.
Heck yes.
Because Toys for Bob killed Crash Bandicoot 4. That game hits. Nobody that I know really played it. It was a quiet release. It didn't sell well, but it was such a tragedy that game didn't get more attention because they showed that they could revisit Crash Bandicoot and put out a damn good Crash Bandicoot game in the modern age. So again, I would love to see that team experiment with Banjo-Kazooie, with Spyro. And I hope that with Xbox's focus on getting more family-friendly titles that we can live in that world.
Which Phil has mentioned. Phil has said openly for months, he didn't say, "Oh, we lack, gritty games." They had that lockdown with Bethesda. He didn't say, "Oh, we're lacking in hardcore first-person shooters and RPGs." They have even more of them now, but that's not what they were lacking. They lacked family-friendly content.
Yes.
The opportunity is now there.
We're putting big ideas out into the world, all right? And, I only use my summoning circles for good. But don't tempt me, Xbox. Don't make me will some of this into existence, all right? I got to give a quick shout out to the 220 people rocking with us. Really appreciate you guys all tuning in. If you are digging the show, hit the like button, share it out, all that good stuff. If you are listening on audio services, rate the show, review the show, all that good stuff as well. We got a bunch of super chats, which I will get to. Shout out to the amazing people here. I see Jez in the mix. What up, my boy?
Man.
My last one of list. I'm just gonna do 3 and keep it nice and sweet and short and sweet. But a underappreciated and almost unknown Japanese development studio that I want to see get the glow up is Brownies. If you've followed the legacy of Brownie Brown or Brownies, it's basically a lot of people from the Mana development team who broke off and did projects like Mother 3 on Game Boy Advance and Magical Star Sign, a lot of these cool abstract experimental titles. They have kind of reformed and rebranded in recent years, and they are working on this title called Eglia, which started off as a mobile title, and it is basically like a mobile spiritual reboot of Legend of Mana, basically, is what they're trying to do. It's the one of the original animators, the lead artist, so it's dripping with that iconic art style. And they have expressed interest in getting back into making console games, and that their next major projects are going to be console games. So Xbox has a gap in Japan. I think a smart get, and a get that Xbox could really foster and give support to, is the team for Brownies. And I just want to see Brownies make a full-fledged console RPG, because they've pretty much been tied to handheld devices, Game Boy Advance, DS, mobile. But I want that team to kind of get that big glow up and to really just be able to stretch their legs and make a big console JRPG for Xbox. I think if I'm part of the Xbox Game Global Publishing team, I'm contacting that studio to see what they're working on. So that's one for me.
That's fair. That's fair.
Eclectic, trying to keep it eclectic out here,
Yeah. Keep people on edge. Keep them on their toes.
You got any more, or is that it?
I think I'm tapped out for now.
Okay.
I'll think on some more. We got a ways to go before this deal closes.
Yeah,
opportunity is everywhere.
We got plenty of time to speculate. Don't you worry. Worry. More super chats here I'm gonna get to, because y'all are crushing it. Dangerman 1337 says Microsoft should integrate Game Pass into Steam like EA Play. That is an interesting idea, and I think the primary reason is finances. I imagine if they integrated Game Pass into Steam, that Steam would require some sort of cut of that, whereas if they have their own app like they do now, they're just getting all the money. It would be convenient, because a lot of people have problems with the Xbox app on PC for a lot of reasons. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. What do you think? Do you want that in Steam? Would that make sense?
I mean, I think wanting it and it actually happening are two completely different things here. Sure, I want it. I think it would be great to have it. I'm going to be honest, I don't see it happening. I think it's too complicated. I think the fact that you've got a first-party publisher pulling in third-party games to their service, then on another third-party publisher. You see what I mean? It's just the chain there gets complicated, and I do not think Microsoft wants to make yet another tier of Game Pass, yet another version. Like, it's already it's enough already. We've already got Game Pass. We've got Game Pass for PC. We've got Game Pass Ultimate, and then we've got cloud gaming. That's a lot of different, these games are here but not here, and these games are here but not here. That's a lot going on already. I think if you throw in here's the ones approved on Steam, like, what do you even call that? Steam Game Pass?
Yeah, Steam
Game Pass,
yeah.
PC Game Pass for Steam. Like, trust me, I would love to be wrong. I just think it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it is complicated. Jake Mauchlin says, turn Battle.net into Game Pass. No need for Steam. So Jake is saying that you just basically kill Battle.net, merge Battle.net into Game Pass, and then there's no need for Steam. I've seen people like Jez Corden say the opposite, that they should just kill the Game Pass app and put everything on Battle.net. But interesting idea there.
I'll say this: Battle.net is too big. It's not going anywhere. So I am very curious how they integrate Battle.net into everything here. That's going to be one to watch.
Silent Cypher says, Tim, give me Grim Fandango 2, please. Thank you for putting please. I'm sure they appreciate that.
Yeah. Please is okay. Please is nice.
We got Jez with the super chat, says Omega Uyu in the chat. Ugh.
Ooh to you too. Yeah. Ooh to you too, Jez.
He wanted me to say Uyu because he knows. He knows I can't stand it. Crazy Lou Gaming says Blizzard, StarCraft, Ghost. Also bring back Blackthorn. Love that game.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, remember StarCraft Ghost, which was going to be was it a first-person shooter or a third?
It was going to be third person, right? And it followed Nova. If you know,
yeah.
Like, again, right there, like, if you want to do stealth and like have Nova cloaking, or just go guns blazing, play as a Terran Marine, 9 foot tall and power armor. Like, either way, I'm good with either one. Just come on, y'all. Again, it's right there.
Imagine being on the ground as a soldier, just blasting waves of Zerg. Like that. Yeah,
a Zerg swarm looks different when you're staring it in the face.
Yes,
come on.
That's the game I want to play. Harjeet Chani, again, killing it with these super chats. Probably all nostalgia, but man, Xbox now owns the Sierra games. Would love to see those come back. Love the King's Quest, Space Quest, Gabriel Knights. Great games for Game Pass. Yes, I think that's the beauty of Game Pass. And again, you can meme on me for drinking the Game Pass Kool-Aid, but it really does free up possibilities for these kind of genres that we know and love that don't traditionally sell incredibly well. You offer that as a supplement for the people who love it. It's there in the service, and people can play it, and there's not this huge financial risk that we need to sell 200,000 copies of this game, and we're only going to sell 50,000. Okay, one more super chat. Whoo, and then we'll move on. RDX, son of a fet. Why is there a double standard? Sony does exclusivity and people cheer. Like the Tomb Raider controversy when Xbox does it, people freak out. Okay, so the double standard. Okay, why is it okay for PlayStation to lock down exclusivity and Xbox not to, Sam?
That's a loaded question and a half, Miles. That's a loaded question and a half.
I know, and I phrased it in particularly hostile for you. So you have.
I'm gonna say this as carefully but also plainly as I can. Okay.
Okay.
And this buckle up. This might take a minute here. I think when it comes to hypocrisy on time deals, like Rise of the Tomb Raider versus Final Fantasy 16, just as an example, I'm just throwing that one out there. I think, somewhat unfairly, there is an expectation that the lead platform gets everything. Right or wrong, earned or not, there's this expectation that because X platform has sold twice as many units as B platform, that means X platform should get twice as many games. I don't think that's correct, and I don't think it works that way, and I think people are ignoring that. But I think that's why when these things happen, you have people go, oh yeah, X platform, that's a good business decision. Yeah, that's a great idea. And then on B platform over here, wait, why did you do that? How long is the deal? When is it stopping? When is it coming back to X platform? I'm not saying it's right. I just think that's why it happens. And also just the business reality of the fact that the platform in the lead, because of market share, is going to have an easier time getting those deals. Those deals are cheaper. They're easier to do. They can do them for longer. Just that's the way of that. Now, was the second part of that in terms of exclusivity on games versus buying up studios?
I think that was. I think you pretty much covered the question.
Okay, all right.
Just
all right.
Basically,
that's my take.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, yeah, I think a lot of that, what you touches on the mentality for certain people is that, you know, like you said, it's easier for the platform leader. We saw it a lot with Xbox 360 in their generation, is when they were in the lead, it was easier for them to get these exclusive deals that they didn't necessarily own them, because you're in a much better position to approach a team and say, hey, your games sell better on our platform anyway. What if we give you a little money to make this so it's only on our platform? That's a pretty enticing deal as a publisher. But again, the double standard really just comes down to individuals. I don't think it's necessarily like a huge widespread thing. Obviously, we see it in our bubbles a lot, because we have people who love PlayStation, we have people who love Xbox, and then there's this kind of this fighting, this natural. You want your team to be the best. You want your team to. We can compare, if we're using sports analogies, we can use those exclusives as a touchdown. I want my team to score all the touchdowns, Sam. Okay. And when you get a big exclusive game, now that's what I call a touchdown. And so again, I get it. I see the hypocrisy from certain people. Absolutely. It's important to, you know, as some of the cringy YouTubers say, keep that same energy, Sam, you know?
Oh, I hate that phrase so much, Miles. I can't emphasize
I know. I have to do. I have to do. So the way that I look at it, and I touched on this earlier this week on social media, is that I really don't like when anyone, regardless of platform, decides that a game is more valuable or it is better because it is an exclusive to one platform. You can be upset about exclusivity. You can champion exclusivity if you want. But I really don't think anyone, regardless of where they stand, regardless of hypocrisy, should say that a game is better because it is an exclusive. I think that is a very, I'm trying to,
short-sighted.
yeah, I'm trying to just word it carefully because I'm not trying to be combative or put anyone down, but it is disingenuous. I think if you're saying that a game is better because it is an exclusive, I think that's very disingenuous. And we see it a lot because, again, we want a lot of Xbox fans, a lot of people, I don't know, listening to the show, obviously want Xbox to be the best place to play. I want Xbox to be the best place to play. It's my preferred platform. But I'm not going to go out of my way to tell you that a game is bad because it's on PlayStation, or this game on Xbox is better because it's only on Xbox. I just don't think that's a trap we really want to fall into. But yes, I've seen some takes on Twitter this week that are quite dramatic, quite bad, if you will, about this Xbox deal. Basically, I've seen people call Microsoft and Xbox evil, calling them this evil, domineering entity in the video game industry because of what they're doing with exclusivity. And then again, people dig up your old tweets, and then they see you celebrating PlayStation acquisitions and celebrating exclusivity deals. And yeah, people get mad. People get mad at you for doing that. So I don't know. I don't know, Sam.
That almost feels like a good segue into that word being thrown around a lot, Miles. Monopoly.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
just a board game. You want to talk about that?
Let's talk about monopolies, because after this deal broke, we, again, like I mentioned, we saw some dramatic takes from people saying that, you know, there are antitrust concerns, there are monopoly concerns, and that Xbox needs to basically stop this level of purchasing because it is quote unquote bad for the industry. It's dangerous for the industry. And so I'll ask you a couple questions here, Sam. First off, do you have any concerns regarding Xbox flexing this much financial muscle? Like just pulling ourselves outside of preference and where we play.
Sure. And
do you have any
being optimistic about games and the developers and all that? Sure.
Yeah. So just
I have some mild concerns. If I am being honest, I am not like red flag. You know, stop it, stop the steal. You know, nothing stupid like that. I am now at the point where I'm like, okay, enough. All right, you're good. You got a lot here. You got a ton of IP. You are the biggest first party in the world by a mile and a half. Like, it's not even up for debate at this point when this deal goes through. I want you to focus on that. I'm not saying Xbox can never acquire something ever again. That's not what I'm trying to say. Please don't misquote me or anything, y'all. But I want them to focus on the teams they've got. They're still digesting Bethesda. You know, we're just now this year, Miles, going to see the benefits of them buying ZeniMax Media. We're going to see Redfall. We're going to see Starfield. That's the bare minimum. That's the very beginning of bringing Bethesda in as Xbox first party. Realistically, we're not going to see the effects of Activision Blizzard becoming Xbox first party until what? Late next year? Yeah. Probably more like 2024. Yeah. Really, if we're being honest, it's going to take a while. I want them to focus on that. I want them to sit down and focus on making all these teams, these 32 plus studios, as good as they can possibly be and deliver on that. Because they are not a monopoly. Like, I've seen that word get thrown around like, y'all, they're not. Gaming is too big. Gaming is too big. There's too many big publishers out there. There's too many platform holders. Too many pieces of the pie. The growing market, it continues to grow. I think, Miles, if they acquire very soon, so like let's say late next year, early 2024, right? Two years from now, let's put it like that. If they were to then go around and acquire another big publisher, I think we have a problem at that point.
A lot of people want more, Sam. A lot of people want Xbox.
I'm not saying it can never happen. I'm just saying I think with where the industry is at right now, I think Bethesda, that's fine. Activision Blizzard, huge, but it's fine. I think if you go for 3 right now, I'm placing strong emphasis on right now, I think then you introduce some issues. That's my take, but I would be interested in hearing what you say. I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, I think the term monopoly has been thrown around way too casually regarding this. As
Sure.
we've talked about, there are still a huge number of platforms. There's still a huge number of players in the gaming industry, and monopoly it's just not a fair word for this situation. Regardless of how you can have your concerns, but to throw around monopoly so casually, you're not understanding how big gaming is and how much money
Right.
is being involved in gaming. Um, Again, what I've been stressing to people on Twitter is you can be excited about this news. Like this is exciting news. You can also have concerns about how this is going to impact the teams and the people involved. I've talked to people at Activision Blizzard, and there is some optimism regarding all of this. And then there are people who are afraid that there will be a ton of layoffs involving this as well as they restructure. So things like that are absolutely worth talking about. Um, it's tricky. The industry as it stands right now is in a very interesting place because we have big giants like Tencent, and then we have other players like Amazon and Google and these huge other companies getting into the competition because they're seeing all the money that's out there, and they're seeing how much money can be made, and there's going to be a lot more consolidation. And
Sure.
we can have a conversation about consolidation maybe another time, the bigger picture, but I think that's just going to become a reality of it. And we won't
Mhm.
really know immediately if that's good, if that's bad, until probably a good 10 years from now. But in the next few years, I think we're going to see a lot of acquisitions of big publishers who understand that there is more of a safety net if you go with a company like Microsoft, who has $2.5 trillion. Like there is so much money there, it's easier to take that and then hope that they can foster that and maintain that, because as development gets more and more expensive, it becomes harder and harder to succeed. And so a lot of the
Mhm.
smaller companies, they can't exist independently that the way that in the same way that they used to. And I'm a
Mhm.
huge champion for independent development and huge and publishers who want to just put out their own games. Um, but it's tough. Like it breaks my heart when I hear about people who have to mortgage off their home and risk
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
entire lives to be able to put out a video game and just hope beyond a hope that it does well. And if it doesn't, they are financially ruined, and that is horrifying. I don't know many people that would want to take that risk to make a game. So the monopoly term, I think, is unfair
Sure.
in this particular situation. But again, um, you can be concerned about one particular entity gobbling up a huge percentage of the industry. Um, like you said, you don't think they should have any big publishers coming up. Do you think if let's say Xbox acquires a WB, a
Mhm.
Capcom, a lot of these other ones that
Mhm.
are kind of spec Square Enix,
Sure. Sure.
where does that put them? Let's say 2 years from now, this deal's closed, and they say we're buying Square Enix, we're buying
Okay.
Capcom.
So let's say let's just go with Capcom because I like Capcom.
Me too.
So let's just say Capcom for this argument. I think they have some interesting arguments to make. I think they have to argue that they, using their size, are not trying to collapse another platform by eroding them. Like, oh, we're not tearing down your sandcastle, we're just digging out from under it. You can't make that argument with how they've acquired Bethesda, and contrary to what people seem to think, you can't make that argument with Activision Blizzard. But if they keep it up, I do genuinely think there's a valid argument that, hey, you're trying to kill the other platforms by just cutting them off. You're trying to choke their oxygen supply. And that is antitrust. That would fit, the definition. I'm not saying whether it would go through or not. I'm not a legal expert.
Yeah,
And Disney acquired Fox. Who the hell knows what can happen? I'm saying, as someone who is interested in a healthy industry, because here's the thing, y'all, when one platform becomes not a little more powerful, not a lot more powerful, when it becomes the dominant platform and it's just crushing everything else, they get complacent. They stop getting hungry. They stop having to fight. They stop having to have quality. They get lax. They get lazy. That's how this works. I don't think capitalism, sorry, I can't even talk, is perfect, but one of the few good benefits is that if you have a competitor, you have to do things better than them. You have to
hmm
try and outspend them. You have to outsmart them. You have to do things in a different way. You have to go into something they're not doing. And Xbox is maybe my preferred platform, but y'all, I want Sony and Nintendo to be healthy. And if you care about the industry, you should too.
And
That's
that's what's
where
exciting
I'm at.
about the current state right now is that PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox are all doing exceptionally well. Again, people have their opinions about their output, whatever, their preferences, whatever. But the reality is that all three are doing incredibly well, and that's exciting. That's why we've had so much innovation. Services
Mhm.
like Game Pass don't exist if Xbox 360 was just the dominating platform
Right.
forever. Because Xbox had to take a hard look at their business model and a hard look at how they made games, fostered studios. That's why we have Xbox Game Studios. That's why we have Xbox Game Studios Publishing. That's why we have Xbox Game Pass. So again,
Yeah.
yes, competition does breed a lot of innovative things. And as the uh, consumers, I hate that word so much. It's
I do
so
too. I do
so
too.
corporate. As the customers, I guess, generally speaking, we get a better value when there is that level
Mhm.
of competition, because not only do you have to deliver great games, a great quality, a great platform, a great experience, but you also have to make it the better value of your competition. And so that's why Game Pass has kind of exploded and become this amazing vessel for delivering games in a way that we had never seen before. So yeah, it's tough. It's a very tough conversation overall. And again, obviously I'm excited, but I'm not faulting anyone for having, healthy skepticism of how this is all going to play out and what this means for the future of video gaming as a whole. Because I think regardless of where you sit, I don't think it's totally fair to be this is the greatest thing ever or this is the worst thing ever. I don't think it's
It's
really
it
fair to
it
be that.
it's okay to have mixed emotions. I don't really. To be very clear here, I'm very positive on this overall, and I'm very optimistic. But I think it's fair if someone does have some mixed feelings
Yeah.
regarding that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's healthy. Healthy to have that dialogue, at least with yourself and say, what could go wrong here? What are the potential drawbacks? And, you know, Xbox hasn't always been perfect. They haven't done the best job of consistently fostering their teams. We're in a new era. I trust in their leadership team now more than I ever have.
Mhm.
But we don't know what the future looks like. We don't know exactly how this is all going to play out. But that being said, it is exciting, and we're going to be talking about it for a long time to come.
Mhm. Yep.
Another thing we're going to be talking about for a long time to come, Sam, is
Oh god.
Call of Duty
There it
and
is.
its
There.
exclusivity. Okay,
Yep.
so shortly after this announcement, that was one of the biggest talking points was Call of Duty and its exclusivity, because regardless of if you love Call of Duty, if you hate Call of Duty makes a lot of money. A lot of money. It is a huge deal. And so a lot of people were speculating immediately that, just like Bethesda, once these contracts close, Call of Duty, Xbox and PC exclusive. And then you had people on the other side saying, "No way, it's too big.
Mhm.
That's too big. They would never make that an exclusive because of all the money they would leave on the table there." And so that was the initial conversation. And then to throw just a big wrench into the entire situation, Big Papa Phil came out on Twitter and tweeted something that did not help the discourse in any way, shape, or form.
No,
Eh,
no, no, no.
so I'm going to read this tweet here because
Okay.
Phil Spencer is very deliberate with his words.
Right.
There was a lot of conversations regarding some when it came to Bethesda exclusives. When Phil
Right.
Spencer said some games would be Xbox and PC exclusives, people were mad. People were mad that he didn't come straight out and say that all Bethesda games moving forward will forever be Xbox exclusive. And he said that because he knew there were contracts in place and he knew that not every single Bethesda game was going to be exclusive to start. And now the titles like Starfield are announced as exclusive. We're starting to get a better picture of what that looks like. So this tweet from Phil Spencer reads, "Had good calls this week with leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important part of our industry, and we value our relationship." So Sam here, let me
Okay.
stress
Yeah.
our desire. It is
That's an interesting word.
our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. That's not them saying, yeah, we're definitely going to keep Call of Duty on
Sure.
PlayStation. That's Phil saying, we would like to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, but there's no guarantee there. So
Mhm.
let's get right into it, Sam. What
Yeah.
does this statement read like to you? What are your thoughts after you've had a few days to kind of read through this
Sure.
and try to understand the big brain play that Phil Spencer's
Right.
mentioning with this?
This reads like a statement that was read over by 17 lawyers made about a company they don't technically own yet. That's what it reads like to me.
Yes, yes,
There is a lot of lifting, and I'm just going to say this right now. There is no 100% guarantee. We can make some educated guesses, but like
yes.
anyone who says it absolutely means this, you're wrong. Because you can't objectively just be right about this. There's room for interpretation.
What is
So
your
here's what I'll say.
interpretation? Let's
My
hear it.
interpretation is two different things, Miles. One, desire is doing some lifting there. I
Oh, yeah.
desire to eat donuts all day and have a six pack. It doesn't happen, but I desire it. However, he didn't say anything like this when they bought Bethesda. He did not name a franchise, by name. He did not call out, it is our desire to keep the Elder Scrolls on PlayStation. He didn't say that. He didn't
No.
say it is our desire to keep Doom on. It was understood that the pre-existing agreements would continue, Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo. Like, he did talk about contractual obligation, and obviously they're not pulling Fallout 76 or the Elder Scrolls Online. That there were statements about that. But he didn't say it's our desire to keep this going. So I do think it's fair that there's a different layer here. That there's something else at play. This isn't the same as ZeniMax. I've seen a lot of different takes about getting Game Pass on PlayStation. A PlayStation Game Pass. With all due respect, as much as I'm sure they would love to, I do not think for 1 second that happens. I do not. I do not at all. My take right now is that Microsoft, due to how Call of Duty it ties into Warzone, and they've integrated the two. They are interlinked. You can't extricate them. Warzone updates are themed after a new Call of Duty game, cosmetics across the games, operators across the games. I think Microsoft sees Call of Duty as a Minecraft situation, where the game itself is the platform. And it is important for that platform to supersede everything else. However, I could totally be wrong here. I would love to know what you think.
Yes, and I will share exactly what I think after I give a huge shout out to the 300 people joining us live. Huge shout out to everyone tuning in. If you were digging the show, hit that like button, share it out. If you were listening on audio services, rate, review the show, all that good stuff. So yes, Call of Duty and exclusivity. Exclusivity in general, post all of these acquisition announcements, is going to be the most hotly debated thing. After Bethesda, the Starfield conversations, the Starfield exclusivity conversations went until the bitter end. Up until it was officially confirmed one way or another, there were wild takes in either direction.
Mm-hmm.
So this could mean several things. I imagine that post this acquisition, the Call of Duty format that we know now is dead. I imagine Xbox is going to say, there is no need whatsoever to put out a Call of Duty every year. We are not going to do that. Xbox has done an amazing job building platforms of their games. Titles like Sea of Thieves, titles like State of Decay 2, Halo Infinite. They understand that you don't necessarily have to put out a sequel every year to be able to iterate and get players engaged and keep players coming back to your game. So there's a couple things. This could mean that Warzone now exists as a separate entity. I mean, it is a separate entity, but Warzone will continue. Warzone will keep getting updates, and Warzone will be multi-platform. Warzone in perpetuity will be on all platforms like Minecraft, and that is the platform for Call of Duty. And that could mean that after I think it's likely 2 more years that we see 100, I think contracts are through 2024 in terms of multi-plat. So the next
That's the rumor, but I haven't seen any evidence.
True.
So
yeah,
that's something I see people say. So grain of salt and all that.
Yeah, with that machine, they are pumping out 1 per year. So it's safe to say that some of those contracts are in place. We don't know what that looks like, but whatever the contracts are, it sounds like Xbox will honor those. And I think once those contracts end, Xbox is going to reevaluate Call of Duty as a whole. And
Mhm.
I could see a scenario where the traditional Call of Duty campaigns or the single player experiences and maybe zombies, for example, whatever that package looks like, I could see a future where those are tied to Xbox, where those are now Xbox and PC
Mhm.
exclusive, or as Phil Spencer famously said, any platform where Game Pass exists.
Right.
I think a lot of the reasons that people are speculating on Game Pass now potentially coming to PlayStation is this is, you know, maybe Big Papa Phil flexing that muscle and saying, "Yo, you want Call of Duty? Um, you got to put Game Pass on it." And that's going to be the only way. Like our desire is to
Mhm.
keep letting your audience play it, but we are going to need something back for that. And there
Sure.
is a world where maybe that's the level of conversation is like we respect you. We obviously understand that Call of Duty is a big part of your business. You obviously spent money to get these marketing deals. You have a huge audience of people who play it. There are some figures out there that show that, companies like Xbox at one point in time gave Activision a percentage of their Xbox Live Gold subscriptions because of the amount of people that were signing up to play Call of Duty. Like that is the
Yeah.
weight that Call of Duty holds. So my take is that it is not 100% one way or the other, but I imagine that Phil Spencer and the team at Xbox are trying to leverage Game Pass into that equation in some way. And whether that's going to be early access on Game Pass, obviously just the value proposition of Game Pass alone carries weight. If you say
Mhm.
you got to spend $70 to play this on PS5 or you can play it on PC or Xbox with Game Pass, that
Sure.
already is weight. That carries weight, and as Game Pass grows and gets more popularity, that's going to carry more and more weight. But I
Right.
think they're trying to get Game Pass on other platforms, and I think this is a big power play to say, hey, you're going to lose money if you don't. So you're going to lose money if you put Game Pass on the platform, but you're going to lose money if you don't have Call of Duty. So meet me halfway, Jim. You hear me, dude?
Let's talk Big Jimbo. And you know what I love, Miles? You know what is so interesting about this is, as much as that's not my take and I have a different opinion, I can totally see a world where you're right. You could 100% be right about this, and it wouldn't shock me. Because, like I said, a lot of ways you can read that tweet. A lot of
Yes.
room for interpretation. Not 100% confirming anything in
and
any way.
and that's why it's a fun conversation to have because realistically there are a lot of different opportunities. I don't think it's cut and dry really either way here, because again, like Minecraft was huge. That platform is huge. It makes a ton of money. They had no
Right?
desire to make that exclusive, even though they could have
Yeah.
swung the weight around of Minecraft and said, you want to play Minecraft, Xbox or PC only, and people would have been like, okay, well, I'll jump on board. I love Minecraft. They
Right.
could do the same thing with Call of Duty, or they could say Call of Duty makes absurd amounts of money every year, and we can just keep that going. Obviously I don't think they'll do it every single year, but
Right, right.
um,
But every other year, even, still stupid money.
exactly. So yeah, people, if you're listening live, would love to hear your takes on that. I'm gonna get to a
Mhm.
couple super chats here. We got Yodani who says, in honor of Sammy T and Xbox being home of FPSs, get us to over 117 likes, and I will give away a Halo Infinite Steelbook copy, US only. Dang, Yodani's throwing down Halo Infinite Steelbook. I haven't looked at the numbers. Are we already past 117? We got 300 people in here. So if you're digging the show, smash that like button and let's make Yodani pay up, you know? Jake again says, I meant BattleNet should be a primary launcher for Game Pass. Okay, so circling back to Jake's previous super chat about BattleNet, just reiterating that BattleNet should be the primary launcher for Game Pass and just having Game Pass titles within the BattleNet web. All right, what else do we got here?
You know
RDX.
what? That's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, why simplify? The one thing I can't, again, as convenient as PC is, and this is a very just nitpicky first world problem. It is annoying having like 10 launchers for my libraries of games. And I know there are like programs that are designed to merge all of your launchers into one mega launcher, but I don't want Xbox to have 5 different launchers just for their first party stuff now. I think that would be a little outrageous. RDX, Son of Fett. After this deal, Xbox is only in third. It's not the biggest market share. They're not a monopoly. They're not the biggest. Sony and Tencent are big. Yeah, I've seen that data thrown around a lot as well. That even with this in the situation, they're not even the biggest. They're not even the biggest player in the space.
And that's why they're not a monopoly grabbing Activision Blizzard. That's why it doesn't even enter the discussion. The question is, however, and this circles back to what I was saying before, would they still be third place if they got another publisher after that? I don't know. Like, maybe. But maybe not. And if it's that latter, that will cause more problems. You know.
Yeah, Tencent is the, I think, scary one for a lot of people because they have a lot of money. They have
so many fingers and so many pies.
No question. And they're not going to stop picking up or investing in teams wherever they possibly can. And they're doing a really good job kind of diversifying as opposed to necessarily outright buying, which is interesting because you see them putting money in Bungie. You see them putting money in Bloober Team. They're kind of all over the place with where they're putting this money. And it's interesting to see kind of what their long play is here, what their big mega
they had a stake in Activision. They had a stake in Activision Blizzard, around 5%. Presumably, I think just like the other shareholders, they get bought out with this. Like, you know, they make their money on their shares. But again, a lot of fingers, a lot of pies.
Yodani with another super chat says, we did it. Drop a 117 in the chat for a chance to win. Appreciate Yodani out here supporting the stream, modding like a boss, and giving stuff away. Outrageous. All right, Sam, let's talk about who's next. We got to talk about who's next here because people cannot be satiated. Even after this $70 billion acquisition announcement, this deal hasn't even closed. It won't close for a while. I've had so many DMs from people being like, okay, here's who I think is next. Here's who I think Xbox is targeting next. And I think this is when they're going to announce it. So let me hit you with a couple questions here. All right. One, do we hear anything about any acquisition at all before this deal closes? And two, who on earth would they acquire after this?
So I'll lean back into what I said before. Definitely not a publisher. Like take a publisher off the table completely. Even if they are willing to risk it for the biscuit and go for another, they're not going to go for another publisher while deal is closing. Like that would definitely, you want to trigger antitrust, have a deal that's not done yet, and then try and get another one going at the same. Bad idea. Secure one thing at a time. So if they did, it would be an independent studio. It would be independent teams. I think it makes sense. I don't think there's going to be one, but I think if they do pick one up, it's one they're partnered with right now.
Yeah.
So IO Interactive or maybe Crystal Dynamics because they're helping with Perfect Dark, and Square doesn't seem to value Avengers all that much anymore. I think one of those would make sense. And you could definitely get a smaller team, just a singular studio without attracting any heat. You could definitely do that.
I see some SMS 34 in the chat is saying Nintendo is next. And that
no.
That idea
no.
That idea just cracks me up because of that. Once upon a time when Xbox was trying to become a thing, they understood that it was hard to build up teams and resources. So they went to Nintendo and said, hey, like, can we buy you? And obviously that didn't go anywhere. And Nintendo had no interest in that whatsoever. And it would be hilarious if Microsoft got ballsy enough, quite frankly, to be like, all right, what's up? Here we are now. Here's what our stable's looking like. Here's our pile of money. You win yet? But no, I don't think that's going to happen in any capacity. But I do agree that partner studios are probably more likely targets than some of these bigger publishers at this point. Because not only do they have to wait for this deal to close, but then they have to spend all this time and resources and energy onboarding them, figuring out how their cultures are going to interweave. And when you talk about 10,000 people being integrated into Xbox, that is a task. That is so much work. And again, I think because a lot of people were speculating on acquisitions before we had even seen anything from Bethesda. There was that E3 showcase where the Xbox and Bethesda game showcase where people were like, oh yeah, they're going to announce acquisitions. And I was like, no, they're not going to announce acquisitions. We don't even know like what this means. Like we haven't had a single showcase since Bethesda's been acquired and they're already going to tell us what's next. So I think that's going to be similar for
Right.
Activision here is we're going to wait for the dust to settle, wait to see what this means for Xbox, and then maybe, once titles like Contraband ship, once titles like Project Dragon ship, they can see how they can see how Avalanche work within Xbox Game Studios and then kind of decide whether or not that is a great fit, whether that is a team that they want to keep on board for Xbox Game Studios. And then they're going to buy Capcom. Right, Sam?
Maybe. You know what?
I can't stress enough how that is the get.
I mean, I'll be honest, dude. If you had told me, "Hey, get Activision, Blizzard, or Capcom," I would have said Capcom.
That's
like so. Just putting it out there. Like I would have slammed the Capcom button so many times. It's not even funny. Just who knows? Who knows? Nothing is impossible anymore. Nothing is truly 100% off the table anymore. We're just talking probabilities and likely and in theory. All you can do is make an educated guess right now.
Exactly. And it's fun. Again, as we've seen on Twitter this week, it is fun to talk about the what ifs and the possibilities and what this means for the industry. One component that I want to touch on real quick, because we haven't really touched on this at all, is the king equation of this Activision Blizzard.
Right.
So ahead of this, we had heard, Microsoft talk about how they want family-friendly games. That's a huge gap for them. And they had talked about how they want to get more into the mobile gaming space, the cloud gaming space. And it's hard not to imagine that King, it was actually a big reason that they went for the entire Activision King banner, as opposed to, let's just say, buying out Blizzard from Activision. So I want to get your thoughts on what you think King means for Xbox moving forward.
I think King, it's very simple. It's steady revenue. It's just steady, easy bottom line. Not that Microsoft cares, but I'm willing to bet that King makes this whole thing so much easier. Because if someone on the board of directors, and I don't think anyone would, or some investor does say, hey, wait a minute, we're taking in 10,000 people? We're paying 10,000 new salaries, minus a few when Bobby and the board get kicked. Like, whoa, what does it look like? It's like, well, now wait a minute. King makes $2 million a day. $2 million a day, Miles.
That is I want to make $2 million a day, Sam.
I would like to make, over $500 million, 600, 700 million easy a year. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? King is very simple. It's not going to be playing into Xbox, but it's going to keep Xbox going. It's guaranteed. It's a gold river for the bottom line. Very simple.
Yeah, it's, again, mobile gaming is huge. Maybe not for us who are more invested in the core gaming experience, have been gaming for a while. For a huge audience, that's what they play. They just casually play mobile games, and that's all they're interested in. They have no interest in buying a gaming PC, no interest in buying a console, and it's important to have plays to that to kind of, again, this is boring as hell for us invested in the core gaming experiences, but diversify that portfolio, honey. They got to keep that, like you said, keep that revenue stream steady, and that King money, maybe that'll fund our Banjo-Kazooie reboot,
There you go. There you go.
Even if you hate mobile gaming, just think about the potential good that money could go towards.
Yeah. Oh God, Miles, I just realized when this deal goes through, we're never going to be able to get rid of Candy Crush from our Windows startup. Like it's just going to be locked in there.
It's going to be pre-installed and you can't uninstall it. They're going to bake Candy Crush into the Windows operating system now.
Right.
Some super chats here. We got Space Dovahkeen who says, WB, 1 year after the Activision deal closes. All right, Sam, I see a lot of people pushing for WB. And this might not be a popular opinion, but I'm not that interested in WB as a acquisition target for Xbox. So I want to know where you're at. Obviously, I see the potential. I see what it could do. There are some cool IP underneath there. And more importantly, I think there are a couple really talented studios that come with
Sure,
that.
sure.
But in terms of IP, you don't get anything. You don't really get much of anything there.
I mean, you get one very big one. You get Mortal Kombat.
Yes,
And that is huge.
that is
And
huge.
that's the wrinkle. That's the rub. That's the fly in the ointment. That's the thing that keeps me from just saying no, it's a bad buy.
Exactly,
Because
Mortal
because
Kombat
Mortal Kombat is
huge and
it,
makes money. It's been making a
yep,
ton of money in recent years.
yeah. So I'm not going to say no, but I think if they could just like pluck NetherRealm and Mortal Kombat, that would be better. It's not. Those are talented teams. Rocksteady is talented.
Yes.
Monolith, WB Montreal, Avalanche, those are talented. The problem is they are locked up. More so than Bethesda, more so than Activision. They are locked up in licensed stuff. Avalanche is working on Hogwarts Legacy. Assuming that comes out this year, their next game is then years off. Rocksteady. All they've ever really done that's great, and they've done amazing games, is licensed DC stuff. Same with WB Montreal. Monolith is now tied up in a Wonder Woman game, which I'm very excited for. I love a Wonder Woman game. That's awesome, but God knows how long that's going to take. Like, even for Microsoft, that's a lot of money when you're not seeing returns for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, outside of Mortal Kombat and NetherRealm. And that's the tricky part there. Oh, and yeah, and Fear. Yes, they do own Fear as well.
Yes.
Which is cool. I like Fear, but it's not a lot of IP. ZeniMax, Activision, tons of IP. WB, just a little bit of IP.
Yeah. So, the fundamental flaw of WB as an acquisition is they are tied so heavily to licensed things. Like we saw Telltale kind of struggle because they didn't really have any IP. All of their IP were licensed, and they got themselves into some financial trouble because of that. They weren't making enough money. They've kind of restructured, rebranded. I'm curious to see how that all plays out. But WB is exciting because a lot of people want the Xbox superhero game. They want Xbox Batman, or they want Xbox whatever, some DC hero. And if Xbox buys WB, they have relationships and contracts that could get them a superhero title, but it doesn't inherently guarantee that they're going to be able to make all these big banger superhero exclusive. Persian Knight says, I don't see Game Pass going to PS5 as it would take rewriting of Microsoft first-party code, etc. But I could see PS5 getting COD if Sony puts their PC-ported games onto Xbox since they're already in DirectX. Okay, so Persian Knight throwing just a huge kind of wrinkle in this entire equation, saying that, okay, you don't have to put Game Pass on PS5, but any game that you're porting to PC, you got to put on Xbox. What do you think about that idea?
I don't know. That's really tough to say. That's really tough to say. I do agree. I think it's a very good point that a lot of these teams, one of the benefits is they're focusing on less platforms. They're just doing Xbox Series and PC. And then you throw PlayStation in the midst as well. That's, diluting the pool a little bit. So that is the thing there. That's a problem. Like, what does Game Pass on PlayStation look like? Would it just be streaming? But if it's just streaming, would Sony agree to it? I don't think they would, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm actually going to have to chew on that a bit more but I think it's an interesting point to raise.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. It's honestly not an idea that even crossed my mind. My gut instinct is to say that that's less likely than Game Pass coming to PS5, but who knows what the future holds anymore. You got to be careful when you make any definitive statements now because this industry's wild, y'all. This industry is wild, and it's keeping me on my toes every damn day. Jake with another super chat here says, in my opinion, the next publisher bought will be Ubisoft by Facebook. Wow, that is a cursed acquisition that you have put out into the universe.
So what's more cursed, Miles? That being put into the universe, or the fact that makes sense?
Yeah, that's the painful part of this whole thing, is that it's not even that outlandish
to
suggest that, because there's these big tech players, Meta now, if you will, And we've seen Ubisoft kind of one of the first publishers to get in big with the crypto crowd and announce that
Mm-hmm.
NFTs will be in their games.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
maybe they're just maybe Ubisoft is going to develop the metaverse. Sam, how do you feel about? Does that
Uh,
make you
I,
feel good?
I purged my brain of that statement, so I don't remember you saying it at all. Moving on.
Okay, yeah, please let's move on. This is hurting. Space Dovahkiin says, "Who owns COD Mobile, Activision or Tencent?" Off the top
Uh,
of my head, I don't know. Anyone?
that's a good question. So basically, how it works is Activision owns the IP. They own the IP for distribution purposes. The game is co-developed by Tencent. Because how it works is generally in China with Tencent, you have to have a partnering company come in and they own 50% or 51% of the development cycle. But in this case, because it's a derivative of COD, like Activision owns the IP. That's a very long-winded way of saying that.
Yes.
IP rights are complicated in China. It gets a little more difficult to navigate.
And publishing rights don't necessarily mean ownership rights as well. I saw a lot of people talking about Sekiro and how
Right, right.
with this deal now the Xbox owns Sekiro, and that's not true. From Software owns the rights to that IP.
Mhm.
They maybe don't have carte blanche to like publish Sekiro wherever they want to, like the first one. But in terms of the Sekiro IP, um, that is From Software's to do with as they please moving forward. That being said, Xbox owns Tenshu now, baby. Mm.
Yeah.
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 Let's
They
have
do legitimately own that. Huh.
and an interesting thing that again I don't know that this is 100% true. This is just doing some digging, some things I've heard from a few different people is that Sekiro actually started out as a spiritual reboot to Tenchu. Like they wanted
Yes,
to
that
go
is correct. That
okay.
is correct. Yep.
They wanted to go back to that, and I think part of that was From Software is really trying to get away from anyone owning their IP.
That
Because
is correct.
and
Yep.
so Sekiro was a way for them to revisit Tenchu without losing ownership of that title.
Yeah. Yeah. They explicitly went with Activision because that's so weird that Activision did publish Sekiro because Activision was the only publisher willing to let them own the IP. Everyone else wanted to own Sekiro. So,
Yeah, and it's like I get it. From Software at this point has cult status. They have a ton of
mhm.
weight. You do an IP, you want to own that IP. But I also feel like From Software has enough weight that they can really get away with being like, no, we will find someone who's going to let us own this. You don't get to own us anymore, all right? And I respect the hell out of From Software for that kind of approach. Because too many times you hear about these amazing games that you want sequels to, and because of somebody owning it and all these technical legal loopholes, there can't be a sequel, where the team doesn't get to make a sequel. Super chats from Kid Smooth. Kid Smooth, what up, dude? I feel Xbox has discussed its plans with Activision more than they did with ZeniMax before the deal closed. Thoughts? Or do you
I
think
mean,
they've
yeah,
been more
it's a
vocal?
bigger deal.
Yeah.
It's 9 times the money they spent on ZeniMax, and ZeniMax was privately owned. They were the largest privately held gaming publisher. Activision is not. They're having to buy out shareholders. Like I said before, board ain't gonna ignore this. Like investors are going to ask about this on Microsoft's earnings call. There's more eyes on it. They have to be more vocal.
Yeah, I think that absolutely is the biggest part of it. And again, as much as we talk about IPs like Elder Scrolls and Fallout being juggernaut, massive IP, it really does not get bigger than Call of Duty. Call of Duty is huge, as we saw with Sony's stock prices following this announcement. It took a hit just based on people's maybe fear, whether it's warranted or not, that they could lose some of that Call of Duty money that impacted another company's business. So that's the kind of weight. We didn't hear about Sony's stock prices falling after the announcement of ZeniMax Media being acquired. One more from Kid Smooth says, also, Activision Blizzard probably takes EA and Take-Two off the table for Xbox. However, do you think a Ubisoft or Bandai is still plausible in the next 2 years? Like I said, Sam, people are already hungry for more. They're hungry for
Ubisoft
more.
is a bad idea.
I have been very vocal about that.
Ubisoft is a bad idea. I will legitimately be negative if they tried. It's not there. First off, another thing is Ubisoft is huge. Activision is 10,000 employees. Do you know how many employees Ubisoft has, Miles?
I thought it was like 14,000.
Over 19,000
Oh, wow.
employees
Wow. Okay.
across over 40 locations. That is a company that needs some cleanup, and that needs that company needs some work. I'm sorry. Like, that's a whole other conversation, but there are a long list of reasons I do not want Microsoft touching them. And I do agree that EA and Take-Two are off the table if you go for Activision, and I think that's why Microsoft has pursued partnerships. You know, you have EA Play in Game Pass
Yes.
Ultimate. What, they don't need EA. EA is now a good third-party partner. They're getting all their games on a time dilation. You know, just wait a few months. You've got all the EA games in Game Pass Ultimate. You know, you're gonna get all their stuff, not day one, but very quickly after. And EA has said they're very happy with this. They love how EA Play has exploded due to Game Pass Ultimate. Good relationship there. There's no reason to change that up.
Yeah, I totally agree. If you have a system like Game Pass and you have big publishers like EA interested and excited and they're willing to partner up and give you these games, I mean, that's got to be best case scenario. You don't have to deal with onboarding them, figuring out how they fit into the Xbox ecosystem, managing all these teams. You just get a kickback and you get to enjoy this partnership and use it as a way to sell Game Pass. And that is huge. So I think Ubisoft, again, getting Ubisoft Plus on the Xbox platform is a great way to partner with Ubisoft, because again, as much as a lot of us complain about Ubisoft, they are still a huge publisher with franchises that people love. Assassin's Creed. People love Assassin's Creed. So again, that one is, for me, not something I would personally recommend. Bandai is interesting because Bandai gives Xbox some opportunities with Japanese developed games that they don't have. Because again, a lot of people, when Jez did that massive poll where he asked people in the community to share, you know, where are the gaps for the Xbox platform right now, there were a large number of people who said, you know, Japanese support, Japanese developed games on the Xbox platform aren't what I want them to be. And I think Bandai would be an interesting way to fill those gaps. And we've seen Xbox partner with Bandai with a lot of their last several releases. Whether it be marketing, whether it be Game Pass, Xbox and Bandai have done a lot of, you know, business development and built a lot of, I would say, good relationships over the past few years. So that's an interesting one to speculate on. I don't know whether Bandai has any interest in selling, but to me, at least, I think that's an interesting one to speculate on to some degree. Oh, yo, Donnie with the super chat, which has been retracted. Appreciate you. I think he just announced the winner of the Steelbook. Appreciate that. Okay. All right. Damn. 353 people joining us live. Appreciate all of you. Again, if you've been digging the show, if this is your first time tuning into the show, we are live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. If you are having fun listening to us ramble about Activision Blizzard, Xbox industry news, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on audio services, or if you want to, we are available now on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. If you just search Xbox Chaturdays. Let's get to just the last couple quick topics here.
Okay.
And if you guys have any other questions regarding Activision Blizzard, anything else you want us to touch on, feel free to drop those in the chat. I will circle back to those. But let's talk about a couple games here. We've been talking all about the industry, but let's celebrate a couple really rad games. And the first game that I want to talk about is an indie that dropped into Game Pass this week called Nobody Saves the World. And if you're watching on the video version, we have some of that gameplay up. And I am absolutely loving this. I've been a huge fan of Drinkbox games. They've done titles like Guacamelee, which are amazing. This title, though, in my opinion, is an early contender for Indie Game of the Year. I have
already in January. Wow.
It's coming out of the gate hard in January. If you love Legend of Zelda, if you love dungeon crawlers, if you love weird, quirky Saturday morning cartoons, it takes all of those elements and introduces this really cool take on the genre, because in some ways it's familiar. If you've played Legend of Zelda, if you've played Binding of Isaac, you'll feel comfortable with how it feels, how it plays. But the biggest kind of twist and hook is you unlock all of these forms. So as you
Mhm.
progress through the game and you level up with these individual forms, you unlock more. And as you get deeper, you can start to mix and match abilities and power ups within these forms. So you can be, for example, a horse. You can turn into a
Mhm.
horse. You can combine the power up of the archer, and you can be a horse that's just using its hooves to fire out arrows. And there's a bunch of dumb, stupid stuff like that that really makes this game shine. Like the first few hours, I was interested, I dug it, but about hour 5 or 6, when I started really getting into the meat of it, oh,
Mhm.
oh my god, dude, it clicked in such a big way, and I've been so hooked. You haven't played this.
Nice.
You haven't played this yet, right?
I have not, but it has been on my radar. Like I've been very aware of it. I was like, "Ooh, Drinkbox, that's definitely a name I know." Hearing you say that, hearing a few other people I've seen that I trust on Twitter talking about how much they're liking it, I'm definitely going to check it out.
Yeah, highly recommend checking this out if you have any interest. It's got online co-op as well, so you can play with a friend
Oh,
online,
okay, cool.
which is
Cool.
huge. Their last Guacamelee 2 was co-op, but it was local only, so this is their first foray into online co-op. It's been working really well. Um, highly recommend that. A game that you've been checking out, we recently put out a preview over on the Windows Central YouTube channel, is Total War Warhammer 3. So I'm curious
Yeah.
to hear your kind of broader takes on your time with that.
Yeah, so disclosure, this game is not out yet. I played about 8 hours of it at a preview event recently, but it's coming out February 18th on PC. So, it's not out quite yet, but less than a month to go. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge Warhammer fan. I love Warhammer so much. I love strategy games. I love RTS games. Like I said before, the whole Activision Blizzard thing. My first thought is StarCraft 3. I love strategy games. Total War Warhammer 3 is just a game made from a position of love. It's like you can tell Games Workshop, an entity that frankly has been notoriously protective of its IP, notoriously so. They trust Creative Assembly. They trust them so much, and they are letting them run wild with this thing. And there was so much speculation that there was going to be a Demons of Chaos Undivided faction. And instead of just being like, oh, you serve one of the four gods, you can now just serve all of them. And they've actually made it a full RPG where you can just mix and match and create your own
Yeah.
evil demon. It's like you want to talk about Diablo. It's like playing Diablo, except you're Diablo. Except you're saying, like, okay, I want the flaming wings, and I want the pustule laden tail, and I want this nasty claw and like a bird beak. Like, it's really, really cool. And also on top of that, they've just been fixing a lot of stuff that fans have been asking for a long time since the first game, back in 2016, with like reworking how siege battles go, diplomacy, making alliances and breaking alliances more interesting. There's just a lot going on. Like Miles said, we have a full preview up. We actually have a video up as well on the channel, so please go check both of those out. If you
Yeah.
are into strategy at all and you've never tried it before, this is going to be the game to hop in on.
Yeah, when I was editing your preview there, I was excited to see kind of the additions and stuff like the expanded multiplayer, and yeah, watching the customization for the demons and everything you can do there was really exciting, and frankly stuff I wasn't expecting from the sequel. So it seems like they are doing a lot with this, and it'll be, I think, for people who are fans of that genre, I think it's going to really kind of deliver a pretty ambitious sequel. How long has it
Oh
been
yeah.
since Total War Warhammer 2?
2017. The first game came out in
Okay.
2016. The second game came out very quick after that in 2017, and they actually did several years of support. They launched a ton of DLC for 2, and when I was talking with the game director Ian Roxburgh, I believe I didn't butcher your name. I hope I pronounced that right. He talked about how one of the reasons Warhammer 3 is so much bigger is because of the success of the DLC for 2. That people just gobbled it up. People loved what they did. They bought it in droves, and it was such a successful game, it allowed them to take 3 to the next level. So that's really cool. It's always good to. I know there's mixed emotions about making a single player game an online service or making it an ongoing thing, but this is one of those examples where that's a good thing. Where because people just kept buying and kept buying and kept buying stuff that you put out, it lets them go even bigger and better next time. I don't know. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super exciting, and it's I always love hearing a team start off with this small project, this small idea that they're really excited about, and then having it succeed and having it land and then be able to go bigger and bolder and really kind of capitalize on ideas that maybe they wanted to visit the first time around but just didn't have the time or resources to do. And it seems like that's really what Total War Warhammer 3 is.
Yeah.
Rainbow Six Extraction, Sam.
Okay.
I know
Yeah.
you haven't played that yet, but that's another kind of bigger Xbox Game Pass release this week. It is
Mhm.
a 3-player co-op horror adjacent stealth shooter set in the Rainbow Six Siege universe.
There was a lot going on in that sentence.
It's a weird idea. When this was first announced, I was very confused as to why they were doing it. And I've spent some time with it. I did our review over for Windows Central, and I've put about 25 hours into the experience. Thankfully, I got to play in co-op, so I got to kind of experience the game as it was intended. And I'm kind of conflicted. I gave it it's a good game. Like, I like it. I've
Okay.
enjoyed my time. I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 for people who care about the numbers, but it's got a lot of interesting mechanics that make me concerned about how the general audience will receive it. So it
Okay.
is very stealth based. So if you like Rainbow Six Siege, that will be comfortable and that will be familiar. But it also has roguelike mechanics where things are randomized each time and light permadeath. I say very light permadeath. So when you bring an operator into a mission, if that operator goes down, they are in this MIA state,
Mhm.
meaning that you cannot play that operator until you go to that stage with a different operator and rescue them. To compound that,
Huh.
all damage carries over. So if you go into a stage and you survive with 5 HP, that operator is now injured, has 5 HP, and cannot be used until you play a few other rounds and they heal. So there's all these mechanics
Mm.
that will take your operators out of commission. And again, I like hard games, so that element to me wasn't that off-putting. But
Mhm.
I could see like casual players thinking this is Left 4 Dead, thinking it's that
Mhm.
experience, going in, running around, shooting zombies. You go down in 2 hits. Even on the easiest difficulty, like the basic enemies hit you really hard, and
Jeez.
it is it gets really intense really fast. And I think that's going to be a huge turnoff for people who maybe wanted this to be Left
Mhm.
4 Dead like. But on the opposite side, I've had a lot of people complain that they're kind of sick of the basic mindless quote unquote gameplay of games that are in the Left 4 Dead space, where it's just run, shoot zombies, and that's it. So if you want something that is more focused, more tactical, slower paced, I think people you'll dig it. There's some cool stuff to dig into, some interesting mechanics. But if you want a casual game to play with your friends, this ain't it. This ain't it, Sam.
Mhm. Good to know. So basically what you're saying is I should download it, I should try it on Game Pass, but I need to play with friends, and I should not play with randoms.
Yeah, communication is huge. So there is a
Okay.
solo. Another complaint that I mentioned in my review is there is a solo mode, and you can play through the campaign solo. Eh, I say campaign very loosely because there is no story, really. There is no story you go through. It's all you level up, and once you earn enough XP, you unlock the next set of stages, but there's no natural flow to anything, and it's all randomized. So it's very story light. The only way to get any story beats at all is to play the game solo. So all of the story stuff is tied to these points of interest within the stages. So you walk up to like a destroyed plane engine and they'll talk about like the incident that happened here that led to that. If you play in co-op, you don't get those. So if you play in co-op, you get 0 of the story beats, but playing solo is not fun. I did not enjoy the game solo. So I
Huh.
would not recommend anyone play it solo. um, Therefore, if you have any interest in any story whatsoever, I would not play the game at all because
That's disappointing. That's disappointing to hear.
it sets up an interesting world and there's some interesting themes, but the way that the story is presented is not ideal. Not ideal. So fun. I dig it. Like I said, gave it a 3.5. I dug it. I'm still playing it with friends, especially when you get to the higher difficulties. The operators and all of their gadgets and all that stuff starts to shine, and you can really synergize
Mhm.
and start doing some cool stuff. So if you have a good group of 3 buddies and you want a nice, tense tactical shooter, check it out. If you were diving in solo, don't. Just don't.
Oh,
Save yourself the 40 some odd gigs and just don't even bother. In my opinion. In my opinion.
sure, sure.
And with that, we're about 2 hours in, Sam. So we are going to wrap this show up. I want to give a huge shout out again to all the amazing people who tuned in live and hung out with us. Really appreciate you guys. Obviously, this was a huge week. A lot of great, exciting stuff to talk about. Sam, my man, huge shout out to you stepping up super last minute and filling that Snowbike Mike spot with grace, with style, with panaz. Is that a word? It's something like that.
Pizzazz.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it. Always love having you on the show. And for all the amazing people joining us, one more time, let them know where they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so you can find me obviously on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert right there. And then I'm writing stuff over on Windows Central and its sister sites, so come talk to me about games, come read what I'm writing. Got some cool stuff that went up this past week amid all the Activision Blizzard craziness. We still had some cool previews, and there's some cool stuff coming on the horizon as well. So
yeah, there's
keep a weather eye peeled.
So many games coming out, and you can bet the WC gang is going to be out there delivering the goods. The squad's coming together. We got Elden Ring just around the corner, and I know you and I are big into the Souls games. So yeah, expect some juicy stuff over there. Last minute super chat action I'm gonna get to real quick from RDX Son of Fett. Who's excited for Tunic?
Oh yeah.
Dude,
looks good.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm really stoked for that. It was announced in 2015. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's been that
sounds
long.
Right. That sounds right. Yeah.
And I was immediately captivated by the world, the Zelda-like elements with this little fox, and I will be so stoked to have it out and in my hands. This year's going to be wild for indies. We have Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, finally coming out. We have Tunic finally coming out. We have Planet of Lana coming out, which looks incredible. We could have Hollow Knight Silk Song coming out this year, and not to mention stuff like Replaced, Somerville. Oh my! I have an Excel sheet on my computer right now with the games I'm interested in terms of like coverage and previews. It is packed. It is so packed. So yeah, look forward to 2022, y'all. And with that, we are going to go ahead and get out of there. Thanks so much, everyone. We will catch you next week. Have a fantastic weekend.
Be safe. Be kind, all.